Hi, my name is Dale Hawley. I work with the Missions Resource Network on a part-time basis, and I also was fortunate enough to be a part of the very first global reunion. Beth Reese contacted me recently wondering if I'd like to come this year, and unfortunately I'm not able to come. Actually, I'll be celebrating my parents' 70th wedding anniversary while the global reunion is going on. But she also invited me to, when that didn't work, she invited me to send a video and just sharing some of the things I remember about the very first global reunion, because as I understand it, this is number 10. And this is a great time for celebration. And so I said, sure, I'd be glad to do that. I'd be honored to say a few things about what I remember about the first global reunion. What I remember is that the global reunion really came out of a series of conversations that Dottie Schultz and Nancy Hartman and I were having in about 2004. We were thinking about missionary kids and how there really didn't seem to be a place for them to connect with each other when they came back to the States, and didn't seem to be an opportunity for them to talk with people who really understood what their experience was like. And we thought, maybe we should see about having a camp or something like that, where maybe for a few days or a week or so, these MKs and other TCKs could get together and just talk about their common experiences. So we started looking around, brainstorming, where could we do something like this? And one day Nancy said, I wonder if Oklahoma Christian might help sponsor this. And Dottie and I said, wow, that's a great idea, Nancy. Could you check that out? Would you mind? And so she went and she checked it out with OC, and sure enough, they'd be willing to let us use, dorm space during a certain week, when the campus was sort of shut down. And we said, wow, thanks, that's great. So we set about to start planning a schedule of what we were going to be doing with our time, and we didn't want to be on campus the whole time. And Nancy said, well, I wonder if OC might help us to do some outings, off campus some. And so we said, sure, would you mind checking that out, Nancy? And so she went and talked with John Osborne, and sure enough, they arranged for some things like going to a baseball game and having a picnic at the park and being able to use the vans. Oh, and I remember being able to go to a Sonic restaurant, which is the only time I've ever sat down inside a Sonic restaurant rather than the drive up, And so, that was really great. Nancy helped to arrange all that, and then we started thinking about, well, who else is going to do this? I mean, we just can't do this, the three of us. And she said, well, we've got some students around here that I think who are TCKs themselves, who I think would be willing to help sort of, work with the teens that are coming in. And I also know this couple that I think would be great, and I think they'd be willing to be a part of it, Clay and Cherry Hart. And we said, wow, that's fantastic. Would you mind talking with them, seeing if they would be willing to be a part of this? And sure enough, the Hearts came, and they brought their 3 kids, 2 of which were, emerging into adulthood or college students. I think Candy might have been a senior in high school or something at that time. And then we started talking about practical things like, what are we going to eat? And Nancy said, well, people could come over to our house for breakfast, but I'll bet some of the churches in town would be willing to, provide meals for us in the evening. And we said, wow, that's great. Nancy, would you mind checking that out? And so, sure enough, they did. And it was, Memorial one night, and Quail Springs another night. And, it was really great in the way they took care of us. But what I remember, really, as you probably have figured out by now, about that very first global reunion, was that it was mostly Nancy Hartman doing the work. That Dottie and I, and probably more me than Dottie, were kind of on the sidelines saying, "You go, girl. This is great. You're doing a great job." And Nancy put together a lot of pieces that really made that very first global reunion go. And I know she's been doing that for the last 10 years. So I just really want to stop. I know there have been a lot of people that have been instrumental in helping make global reunion a reality, but nobody more so than Nancy Hartman, and not only in that very first one, but I know in many years since that time. So as I've been reflecting a bit back on that very first global reunion, a lot of memories came back. I was actually a little surprised. I mean, that's 10 years ago. How much would I remember from 10 years ago? And I have a lot of memories about that. But I want to share 2 briefly, that because I think they epitomize for me what the idea behind Global Reunion is about, and I suspect that it may still be this way. And the first was actually the very first night. One of the things I noticed, I think we were meeting there on a Wednesday, and people started coming in. And whenever you plan an event like this, you wonder, is anybody really going to come? Particularly when you're doing it for the first time. But sure enough, people signed up, and they started showing up. And one of the things I began to notice was there were these people that had never met each other before, but it was like they'd known each other for a long time. They'd had this common experience as missionary kids or TCKs, and some of the natural social awkwardness that oftentimes is there when you're first getting to know somebody just really wasn't there. And I remember particularly the first night, I was there, my role officially was the director of the session. Right, and I've had some experience as a camp director before, and one of the things I always stressed as being a camp director was, well, let's get to bed, get people to bed at a reasonable time, so the next day they're not dragging around. You have a good experience all the way around, and so, it got to be about that time of the night, probably about time for people to settle in. But it was a little different because there were college students that were involved, and you couldn't really say to the college students, okay, time for you to go to bed, and that sort of thing. So I started making hints. Maybe it'd be a good time, to go to bed. We got a long day tomorrow, and I started dropping a few hints, and it was readily apparent that those hints were falling on deaf ears. Nobody was listening to me. They were having such a great time. They were laughing. They were telling stories. They were just really having a great time being together. And after a while, I said, I give up. And I went to bed myself. I don't know how long they stayed up, but I do remember that my fears about them dragging around the next day were unfounded. Everybody was, fully a part of what was going on the next day. And I really learned something from that. In fact, anytime I get the opportunity to work with missionaries, I find that I learn more than I think they probably do. And one of the things that I learned from this experience was they didn't need me as an adult to be there to take care of them. They were going to take care of each other. And I saw that throughout the whole week. These guys, they all looked out for each other. And if there's somebody that wasn't getting included, they looked for a way to include that person. There wasn't a lot of the social games that oftentimes go on when you have a group of people getting together in a camp experience like this. They were there for each other. They were taking the responsibility of looking out for each other, and I thought it was really, really a beautiful experience. The other thing that I remember really had to do with what happened at the very end. At the very end, we asked people to complete evaluations about what they enjoyed the most about their experience there. We asked them about a lot of things, but that was one of the questions. What did you get out of this? What was your favorite thing about this? And I was amazed at how many of them said it was that question and answer time we had with the Polish team. Now, to give you a little context, one night we invited a team that was preparing to go to Poland. I think they were from Memorial Road. And as it turned out, the team was never able to go, but they were in the stages of preparation, and we thought, well, it'd be nice for them to be able to have a conversation with the missionary kids about, what their experience is like. Maybe they could share a few things about their experience. Maybe we could make this last 30 minutes or so and stretch out our devotional a little bit, and I'm thinking about how we're going to make our schedule work and all that. And so we get this Polish team in, and there's probably, I don't know, 6 or 8 people that are planning to go to Poland, and they're sitting on one side of the room, and the MKs and TCKs are sitting on the other side of the room. And they ask, so can you tell us something about what it's like to be an MK? And they started talking and talking and talking and talking and talking about what it was like to be an MK. Great pieces of advice, great stories about how being an MK was the greatest thing in the world, great stories about how it was hard, great suggestions about what you could do for your kids, if they were going to be an MK that would help them make their experience better. I mean, it was really wonderful stuff. But what really struck me about all this was that when we had people do the evaluations, they said, that's what I liked about the most about the week. And I thought, these guys really want to talk about their experience. They want somebody who's interested in them to hear about what it was like and what it is like to be an MK, because it was a rich experience and they want other people to know about it. So my guess is that's still going on. That the campers or the participants in the global reunion are still watching out for each other, and you're still having an opportunity to talk about what it's like to be a TCK. And I just really want to congratulate the folks from Intermission who have really kept us going, through these last 10 years, and the people at Oklahoma Christian who have partnered with them. I think you're doing a great thing, and I hope that this year's experience is a wonderful experience, and I hope that there will be many more global reunions to come. Thanks so much for letting me share with you a little bit today.